All right, we're down here. It's Friday afternoon, 3:30. We're at the extra mile now. This is where the magic happens. Lawrence has been in. He head off at 3:15. Had a practice practice exam in from Pete, which is magnificent. I can't wait to get into that this weekend. And we've had Cooper came in. He went through a 10 marker with me. He's doing a magnificent job. So good to see people getting after it. And I'm glad to see you're enjoying some of these videos. So thanks very much to Gemma Lilly for the content suggestion regarding regional standing. So today we're going to go through regional standing, and in particular Australia and China's regional standing. To go back to the very start, regional standing is the overall perception of the state by actors in the region. So it's how a state is perceived by the other states in the region. Now, that, especially in the Indo-Pacific, is going to vary from state to state based on alignment, based on alliances and those sorts of things. So that's an important thing to note. But generally, states with positive standing are predictable, rule-abiding, and they help others. And states with negative standing tend to be rogue states who do the opposite. Now, a lot of that, you can imagine, is in the eye of the beholder. So when we look at China often say, we're just doing our own thing, you need to mind your own business. We're not flying planes over America, why are you flying planes over Taiwan? So a lot of this matters in terms of who's looking at it, and the perspectives matter when we look at this. So we're going to look at Australia and we're going to look at China. For Australia, some of the things that show that we have, or that we lean on when we're trying to prove Australia's regional standing, are our alliances. So the Quad and AUKUS are two really significant alliances in the region that show to Australians and to those around the world that we are of high regional standing, right? If you're in alliances with these countries, with the United States, with Japan, with India, then you are considered in this region to be a country of high regional standing. Those nations aren't doing deals with those smaller nations or less significant nations. We also look at diplomatic leadership. So Australia is a country who spends time looking after its Pacific neighbours, and the Pacific Step Up is a good example of that. Now, the fact that we do provide some diplomatic assistance to those places shows us and sort of is indicative of our standing of our good standing in the region. Now, something that diminishes our relationship in the region is our relationship with China. So states who are aligned with China, Belt and Road states, they might look at us and look at our testy relationship with China and think that that negatively impacts our position in the region. They might see our relationship, our testy relationship with China as something that's not good. They may also look at us and think that our economy is over-reliant on China. So China buy all of the rocks that we sell out of the ground, and if that's all we do, then we may not be a significant player in this region. We may be a house of cards. So there are some positives and negatives, or some ways in which Australia has a very strong regional standing and ways in which it doesn't. A quote you can use here is from the Lowy Institute about the AUKUS deal, and it says, the AUKUS submarine partnership represents a serious counterweight to China's growing maritime power. So that alliance, that strategic alliance, is a counter to China's power that we hold. So it puts us up on that level. It puts us on a very high level in the region. So now China, I've split into two different parts. So China's regional standing has been sort of built but also negatively affected by both the Belt and Road and the South China Sea. So if we look at the South China Sea, states in the area like the Philippines and the states that China is trying to take a territory from, they don't like what China is doing, right? So for those players in the region, for those actors in the region, their standing is reduced. But China's ability to do what they want to do in the South China Sea, their ability to stand up to these nations, to show force over these nations, and to stand up to the United States, that shows strength, and that is a way of China increasing their standing. If they can show that they are on the same level as America or challenging America, well, then they're viewed as a significant power. For the Belt and Road seeks to develop strong relationships in the region through development and investment. So they are making the investments that they're making in the Belt and Road so they can improve trade routes, but also so they can carry some favour with states and actors in the region. A positive is that China is seen as a generous trading partner developing poor nations, so that increases their standing. And a negative on their standing is that China has made bad deals with some countries and can be seen as greedy or self-serving. And that's when we get into some of those debt trap diplomacy type case studies. So some case studies you can use for that, if you're looking for a positive, ways in which China have used the Belt and Road to improve their standing and to improve their standing in the region, you could look at Pakistan, Indonesia and Malaysia, and they're all in the textbook. And if you look at some negatives and you want to show some ways in which China have negatively affected their regional standing, you can look at Sri Lanka. So that's the Hambantota port, which we looked at. And you can also look at the China-Lao Railway if you want, but that Sri Lankan case study is rock solid. Two quotes from China around China's regional standing that I think you could use that are very helpful are, "Planet Earth is big enough for two countries to succeed." That's from Xi Jinping. That shows China's regional standing and in that it's trying to peg them on that same level as the United States, right? So this is China saying, we're big dogs too. It's China and it's America in this area. And then the final one, or another one that you could use, is that China's Belt and Road Initiative heightens debt risk. And that's something that we've looked at for debt trap diplomacy with Sri Lanka, and that's from the Centre for Global Development. So you can say that by saddling these developing nations up with a lot of debt and hurting those economies potentially, they are going to hurt their regional standing. So there you have it. There's a look at regional standing. Keep going. You're doing a magnificent job. Go well over the weekend and just make sure that you're not just putting all your focus into one subject. Make sure you're spending little bits of time on everything and having a little read of politics stuff and the rest of the things you've got going on. I hope these are helpful. Please send through your suggestions. See you later.